the Skull and Bones Secret Society was originally called the Brotherhood of Death. George Bush Jr., his father George H.W. Bush, and his grandfather Prescott Bush have all been initiated into this macabre fraternity, which was established in 1832 at Yale University by William Huntington Russell, whose family were America's biggest opium smugglers. William Huntington Russell had traveled in Germany during his student years and was befriended by a disciple of Adam Weishaupt's Bavarian Illuminati. Upon returning to the USA in the early 1800s, Russell used some of his family's opium wealth to fund the building of the tomb at Yale University. In her fascinating book, American journalist Alexandra Robbins claims to have unearthed a Skull and Bones plan to dominate the world. One can't help recognizing the fact that in the 170 years since the formation of the Skull and Bones Society, it has members in the most influential jobs all over the world. New initiates seem to fall effortlessly into high-paid jobs within banks, media organizations, government agencies, and huge corporations which earn vast profits from government defense contracts. The Skull and Bones Brotherhood of Death recruits members from America's billionaire aristocracy. Multiple generations of the Bush family have taken part in 6 satanically inspired rituals along with members of wealthy families who are behind some of America's most famous brand names. Based on the rituals of the German Bavarian Illuminati, the Skull and Bones have approximately 900 members worldwide. The new initiates are threatened with blackmail if they ever reveal the secrets of this Masonic order. At this point, they are dressed in long robes and rechristened with their occult names. We can exclusively reveal that George Bush Sr.'s occult name is Magog, which is the name of the evil army commanded by Satan to visit Earth and destroy the kingdom of Christ. The American Ivy League colleges each have their own branches of the Skull and Bones Brotherhood of Death, indoctrinating the children of America's elite families who go on to become the captains of industry, banking, law, military, and the media.
Every April, they roam the grounds of one of the country's most prestigious universities. 35 years ago or so, you might have seen one of them, known among his secretive friends as Temporary. Our #1 story in the countdown: if Temporary winds up losing the presidential election this fall, that name is going to haunt him the rest of his life. Temporary. His name in the Yale University Secret Society Skull and Bones, better known to you as President George Bush. Now, for the first time in the history of that Yale club, 2 of its former members will go head-to-head for the presidency. Also the first time in the history of that slightly less secretive organization, the United States of America. That's right, John Kerry was also in Skull and Bones. In a moment, a journalist at Yale who has removed some of the unknowns from the bones. First, who are these people? Skull and Bones dates to 1832. It was, in fact, a reaction to a secret society, the Masons, then much more influential than they are today. Founder William Huntington Russell thought of his little conclave as sort of anti-Masons, and as a home for the wealthy and the powerful and the people who would do anything for another bonesman. Each year, 15 Yale undergraduate seniors are tapped for membership, initiated in controversial, murky fashion dramatized here in the movie The Skull.
Skull above any other. Say, skull above any other.
fashion satirized here in The Simpsons.
Who leaves Atlantis off the maps? Who keeps the Martians on their racks? We do.
Members of Skull and Bones, that is, not of the Stonecutters, gather on High Street in the Yale campus at The Tomb. New members, the neophytes, are expected to do things like lie in coffins and wrestle in mud and kiss a skull and confess their sexual histories in front of the group to bond themselves together further still, and presumably just for a few laughs. Once you're in, you're in. Skull and Bones is for life. Talking about Skull and Bones is for others. And there are a lot of bonesmen who did not talk, but did succeed. Henry Luce, who created Time Magazine and all its cousins. Harold Stanley, founder of Morgantown. Henry Louis Stimson, the Secretary of War under FDR and Truman. William F. Buckley. Averill Harriman, longtime governor of New York. And then there are the presidents. William Howard Taft, whose father Alfonso had helped found the group and whose son Robert was a senator. George Herbert Walker Bush, whose father Prescott was a bonesman and a senator. The current President Bush, although his kid at Yale has not been tapped for Skull and Bones, even though they do admit women now. His child is not Skull and Bones. His opponent is John Kerry, bonesman, class of '66. And if this needs to be weirder for you, try this. His wife, Teresa's first husband, the late senator from Pennsylvania, John Hines. His father was Skull and Bones. So we have an all-secret society presidential election. Not that either of them are talking about it.
You both were members of Skull and Bones, a secret society at Yale. What does that tell us?
Not much, because it's a secret.
You were both in Skull and Bones, the secret society.
It's so secret we can't talk about it.
One a Democrat, one a Republican, miles apart on the issues, but both rooted in the same secret Yale society. Which raises the question, how exactly is the Bush bone connected to the Kerry bone?
Them bones gonna walk around.
Joining us now to talk about the Bones connection is Alexandra Robbins, author of Secrets of the Tomb, Skull and Bones, the Ivy League, and the Hidden Paths of Power. She's also a Yale alum, and in the interest of full disclosure, a member of another Yale secret society. Ms. Robbins, good evening.
Hi, I was a member, but they won't talk to me anymore since my book was published.
Congratulations.
I guess.
Cornell 79 here. We don't know squat about secret societies, so we can just go from there. We know from your feature in The Atlantic that George W. Bush was assigned the temporary name Temporary and just kept it. Do we know what John Kerry's Skull and Bones name was?
We don't. We can probably assume that he received the assigned name Long Devil, which is the name for the tallest member of the club, but I'm just guessing.
There seems to be no middle ground about this organization. Either the group is viewed as the warm-up act for the Trilateral Commission, or it is a society devoted to making people think that it's nefarious and then giggling when people take it seriously. Which is it closer to being?
It's actually closer to the middle ground. There are conspiracy theories that you'll hear that are based on nuggets of truth. For example, they really do tell their sexual histories. That's something that both Bush and Kerry would have done. The sole purpose of Skull and Bones is to get members into positions of power, and then to have those members hire other members to prominent positions, which is something that President Bush has done. Basically, this is probably the most powerful and elite alumni network in the country, and that's the significance of Skull and Bones.
Well, what happens when two bonesmen are in conflict, like, say, if they run against each other for president? Are there rules of conduct among bonesmen to cover this?
I've actually asked members of Skull and Bones what happens if it's a Bush-Kerry election. They told me they don't care. It's a win-win situation for Skull and Bones.
So there is no instruction, and there's nothing that prevents, obviously there's nothing that would prevent Kerry from running against the sitting bonesman, and so this is a secret society with all these rules and help your fellow bonesmen up until a point.
Well, this is an organization that's basically one huge superiority complex, and they're just thrilled to have bonesmen running against bonesmen, because that means that no matter who wins, there's going to be a connection in the White House for them.
And if we broke into that place on High Street in New Haven, Connecticut, we would see what? Something that looked like a Harry Potter adventure ride at an amusement park? Something
like that. You'd see dozens of skulls, skeletons, art celebrating death, war memorabilia, and several allegedly stolen items that bonesmen supposedly were supposed to take as gifts to the society's goddess. I am not making this up.
And what happened to her?
Well, according to Skull and Bones legend, in 322 BC, which is why you see the number 3.